Ready or Not ends with a woman covered in blood that is not hers, walking away from a mansion full of exploded rich people. Blink Twice ends with a woman marrying the man who drugged her and erased her memory. One of these women escapes, the other one takes control, and they're not the same plot, they're the same trap. Same castle, two survival strategies, burn it down or take the keys. It's a 400-year-old folktale about love that comes with keys, and one door you're not allowed to open. When you open it, you find what the house was built to hide. This is not a full recap, just the moments that change how you see both films. Before we go further, comment right now, fire or keys? Would you rather burn the house down or take the keys and run it? And we're gonna do three things: name the folktale, prove it in both films, and then talk about what these endings are really saying. This is Legacy of Folktales. We find the old stories hiding in new ones. Ready or Not, 2019, Samara Weaving plays Grace, and she's marrying into money, old money, board game money. The LeDemoss family built an empire on games, and now Grace is becoming one of them. Except there's a family tradition. Every new member has to play a game at midnight, and Grace, she draws hide and seek. But it's not the kids' version. The family has crossbows, axes, and a genuine religious belief that if you don't hunt her down before sunrise, they will all die. It's a deal they made with the devil for their wealth. That's the price they pay. So Grace spends her wedding night running through a mansion, bleeding, hiding, fighting. To add to that, she doesn't just play their game, she refuses the rules. So when dawn comes and she's still alive, the family explodes. Literally, the devil collects. Grace walks out covered in their blood. Classic final girl ending, and she survived. Now, Blink Twice is from 2023. It's Zoe Kravitz's directorial debut. Naomi Aki plays Frida, and she's not marrying into wealth, she's serving it. She's a cocktail waitress at a party thrown by Slater King, a tech billionaire played by Channing Tatum, and he notices her. He invites her to his private island. It's all luxury, all excess, influencers and hedonism, and forgetting the real world exists. But women start disappearing from this island, and here's what makes it horror. No one remembers they were ever there. Here's how you know something's wrong. At the start of the film, Frida says,
"Oh yeah, no, I have an excellent memory."
Halfway through, she says,
I feel like we're forgetting like a lot of stuff.
And Slater King has a line that's the thesis of the entire film.
Forgetting is a gift.
But here's what's messed up. He's not talking about himself. He remembers everything. He took an indigenous flower, one that erases memory, and turned it into perfume, food. He weaponized it. And the only antidote, snake venom. He controls both the poison and the cure. He's talking about his victims. Forgetting is his gift to them.
This movie's about power and power dynamics and what people will do to get it and what people do when they have it. I really wanted to highlight the absurdity of what women are asked to do by society. We're constantly being asked to smile through our pain. We're constantly being asked to forget and forgive, and we're constantly being asked to pretend, and it's exhausting. And I wanted to see what happens when we stop.
Where's Jess?
Who's Jess?
And here's the first thing Frida sees that others don't. She notices the servers.
Don't even bother. You got it.
The staff cleaning rooms, serving drinks, standing in corners. The other guests don't see them, they're scenery. But Frida, she worked events just like them. While everyone else sees paradise, Frida sees people doing the job she did last night. She knows what it means to be furniture in someone else's luxury. That's not observation, that's recognition. You see, there's a drug. It erases memory, and Slater's been using it on everyone, including Frida. She's been assaulted, traumatized, erased over and over every morning. She wakes up thinking it's the first day, until she stops taking the drug. Frida survives too, but she doesn't run. She takes the same drug they used on her, and she uses it on Slater, wipes him blank, erases everything, and then she marries him. She doesn't escape the system. In fact, she inherits it. So here's what I realized watching these back to back. Grace is a final girl. That's a horror trope, the one who survives when everyone else dies. You see it in so many countless horror films. Usually, she's pure, she's resourceful, she's the last one standing. But Frida, she's not just a final girl, she's a final boss. She doesn't just survive the horror, she becomes the person running it. She went from invisible to in charge, from victim to owner, and she did it using the exact same tool that was used to erase her. That's not escape, that's inheritance. And that difference, that's the whole point of this video. When I first watched Blink Twice, I thought I knew where it was going. Frida escapes, exposed to Slater, justice served, standard final girl ending. I wasn't prepared for her to go back. I wasn't prepared for her to marry him. And I definitely wasn't prepared for the film to frame this as a win. Because both of these films are retelling the same folktale, a story that's been told for 400 years about women, wealthy men, and the horror of entering a home that's not quite what it seems. It's called Bluebeard, and once you see it, you can't unsee it in these films. So Blink Twice and Ready or Not are retelling similar stories. A story that's been retold in France and Jamaica and America, but traces its origins back to France. The story typically goes like this. A young woman marries a wealthy man. He could be a lord, he could be a merchant, a king, it doesn't matter. He's rich and powerful and mysterious, and he gives her the keys to his entire estate. He tells her you can go anywhere you want except one room. But of course she enters this room, and inside, what does she find? The bodies of every wife who came before her, all dead, all hidden, all forgotten. And here's what makes it even more than just a murder story in most retellings. Nobody in the village even asked where those women went. They disappeared and life just continued. The wealth remained, the house stayed beautiful, the man stayed respectable. That's the real horror of Bluebeard. It's not just that he gets away, it's that he does this over and over again because everyone forgets. Bluebeard has 4 ingredients. Watch how both films hit all 4. 1. Wealthy man. 2. Beautiful home. 3. Hidden room. 4. Women vanish and nobody asks. And if you go back and watch Blink Twice, knowing it's a Bluebeard story, the film warns Frida from minute 1.
Blink twice and I'm in danger.
Well, maybe not. Let's not answer that one, right?
He does. He blinks twice. We see it, Frida laughs, but we know we're watching her ignore every warning and walk straight into the castle. Here's the receipt. Grace marries into the Dumas family, and they literally tell her she has to play a game.
Do you like to play games?
I guess it depends on what we're playing.
There's a ritual and a sacrifice.
When you marry into this family, you have to play a game. And if you don't, you die. I know that sounds crazy, but you have to believe me. It is real.
And we learn she's not the first.
I got chess.
I got old maid. Seriously, what the f*** is old maid?
The family's been doing this for generations, and nobody outside that mansion seems to know. Nobody asks. The Le Dumas fortune continues. And Blink Twice, women disappear from the island and nobody remembers they were ever there. The drug erases them from memory, from consequence. Frida herself gets erased and restarted every single day. That's Bluebeard, the wealthy man, the beautiful prison, the bodies nobody remembers. But forgetting goes beyond just power. It's about control. That's Bluebeard element number 4, women vanishing and nobody asks. Not because there's no evidence, because everyone's been taught to look away. The house stays beautiful, the man stays respectable, life continues.
Forgetting is a gift. Huh? Slater said forgetting is a gift.
And some say nations also participate in the forgetting as well. Aimé Césaire, the Martinican poet and philosopher, called it the forgetting machine, the way powerful people, and specifically in his case, the British Empire, erase what they've done, not by hiding it, but by making it so everyone else stops caring. They stop asking, they stop remembering. Now let me show you how this plays out in the architecture of both films. You don't need to destroy the evidence if nobody's looking for it. Remember when statues were being taken down and destroyed, and we discovered many of those statues were made to help us remember a certain past and forget another? It's the same thing in these movies. And Ready or Not, the Le Dumas family has been sacrificing new members to their family for over a century. Generations of wealth built on forgotten bodies. And the family just keeps existing. Nobody investigates. Few protest. The forgetting machine keeps running. There's even a scene where Grace, in trying to escape, falls into a pit and discovers the remains of other bodies. How many people have died to maintain this legacy? This almost feels like a direct shout out to Bluebeard. In Blink Twice, the forgetting machine is literal. It's a drug. You take it and you forget what happened to you. You forget the violence, you forget the women, you wake up the next morning and the island is still beautiful and you still feel lucky to be there. The horror isn't just the violence, it's that the violence doesn't leave a trace. No memory, no crime, no witness, no victim. But not quite. Some of the women notice bruises and scars that they can't account for.
They were like, oh, Sarah, you were climbing up a tree and you were so wasted you fell.
Just 8 seasons in Hot Survivor, babes.
And it keeps happening.
It doesn't make any sense, but I feel like we're forgetting like a lot of stuff.
Both of these films engage with a certain forgetting machine, and only one woman figures out how to use it to her advantage. But here's where the films split. Grace in Ready or Not refuses to play. She won't participate in the ritual, won't follow the rules.
Weapon of choice for Grace in this scenario is whatever she can get her hands on.
And she enters that forbidden room on her terms. And when she survives until dawn, the curse backfires. The family explodes, literally. because the devil collects. Grace destroys a forgetting machine by refusing to be forgotten. Frida does something different. She remembers what happened, and when she goes back, she takes the same drug that erased her memory, and she erases Slater King. Makes him forget everything. His empire, his crimes, his power. He's blank. And then she marries him and inherits everything. She doesn't destroy the forgetting machine. She takes control over it. And here's what's important about Frida. That's not naive. She knows exactly what she's doing. She looked at the system that tried to erase her and said, no, I'm keeping this.
Is she continuing a cycle or is she ending a cycle? And I leave that up to the audience.
In Bluebeard, most retellings, the woman either escapes or dies. Those are the two endings. But Frida creates a third option, inheritance. She doesn't just survive, she becomes the person running the house. Now, before we go any further, we should confront the elephant in the room. The next part isn't fun, but it's the point. Bluebeard isn't a metaphor if it keeps happening. A powerful man with a private island, a place where wealthy people go to do things they can't do in the quote-unquote real world, where what happens there stays there, where people disappear and nobody asks questions, where the staff sees everything and maybe says nothing. If that sounds familiar, unfortunately it should. This isn't just a folktale from 400 years ago, this isn't just a movie plot, and it keeps happening with concern with powerful people. The films aren't just using Bluebeard as a metaphor, they're showing us Bluebeard never stopped. And that brings us something you probably didn't know about Blink Twice. And here's where Blink Twice gets specific about what kind of house this is. Slater tells Frida,
600-year-old door. All right.
That's not tech bro aesthetic, that's colonial architecture. That's Bluebeard element number 2, the beautiful home. And here's what that means. Haciendas were plantation estates. Blink Twice wasn't shot in the Caribbean, it was filmed at a plantation in Mexico. The same plantation where George W. Bush and Bill Clinton held summits. It's now part of the Marriott. Zoe Kravitz made a movie about a forgetting machine inside a place where the forgetting machine already existed. Presidents shook hands here. Tourists vacation now. That's not metaphor, that's the system still running. Think about what a great house is designed to do. It projects wealth and beauty and civilization on the outside. Massive columns, manicured gardens, grand entrances. But inside is where the violence happens. Inside is where people can disappear. And the house is designed so that what happens inside stays inside. And ready or not, the Lid Moss mansion is similar. Beautiful from the outside, hunting ground on the inside. Slater King's compound in Blink Twice is a paradise from when you approach, but a prison once you're inside. These aren't just rich people's homes. They're designed to hide what they're really for, designed to make you forget what happens there, and they've been designed that way for centuries. Watch what the house does. There's a concept called the Panopticon. It was designed by this philosopher named Jeremy Bentham in the 1700s. It's a prison, circular with the watchtower in the center. The guards can see into every cell, but the prisoners can't see the guards, can't tell when they're being watched. And here's the thing, you don't even need guards in the tower. The prisoners just have to believe someone might be watching. That's enough. You police yourself because you never know when the eye is on you. Not literally Bentham's Panopticon, the panoptic principle. One side sees everything, the other side can't look back. That asymmetry is what makes people police themselves. They don't know when they're being observed. The house watches them, but they can never watch back.
Well, don't you think you have a little bit of an advantage?
Oh, no, we never use the cameras. We always play the games as they would have been played in great-grandfather's time. Always.
We should use the security camera.
She's right. Don't you think great-grandfather would have used the security cameras if he had them?
Ready or Not literally turns a mansion into a weapon. Walls you can't read. Blink Twice turns the island into a weapon. Views you can't escape. Now, if you consider Ready or Not, the Le Demas mansion has hidden passages, secret doors, a whole camera system. The family can move through the walls and watch Grace without her knowing. She's being hunted, but she doesn't know where they are. She can't see them until they want to be seen. That's the Panopticon. She's always being observed. She just doesn't know when. And Blink Twice, from the main house you can see the whole property. Who's where, who's talking to whom, who's breaking the rules. But if you're a guest on that island, you can't see into Slater's private spaces. You can't see where the staff goes, can't see what happens in the rooms you're not invited into. The island watches you, you don't watch back.
So you don't think I'm crazy?
What's crazy is that we got onto a plane with a bunch of dudes we don't know.
I thought you all knew each other.
No. Cody just chatted me up at a coffee shop, talking about how he knew Slater King.
But Heather and Gamal, they know everybody, right?
These houses aren't just rich. They're designed to make you forget you're being watched. They feel open, they feel beautiful, they feel free. But the whole time, you're in the tower. And when do you remember someone's watching? It's too late. The forgetting machine isn't just a drug in Blink Twice. It's not just a family curse in Ready or Not. It's built into the architecture. The walls remember what you're supposed to forget.
I remember you. From the gala?
That's right.
Now here's where it gets darker. Because these houses don't just watch the people inside, they also require people to be invisible. In Blink Twice, Frida's told this explicitly at the beginning of the film.
I just want this time around you to be a little bit more invisible, okay?
Okay.
Okay, can you do that?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay.
I can.
And don't forget to smile.
I won't.
Tell me if that line hits you. And that's not just a workplace instruction. That's the job. Serve the wealthy, don't be seen. Be present, but not present. Exist, but don't exist. Why is Frida the only one who remembers Jess? There's a scene where Slater stands over Frida while she's unconscious and tells his therapist,
She really won't remember any of this. The worse it is, the more they forget. Amazing.
Jess was unalived. The other women watched. That trauma was so severe, the perfume erased her completely. But Frida drank snake venom. It brought her memory back before the perfume could finish the job. That's why Frida's nails matter. She had red rabbits on them last year. The badass maid remembers. The house remembers. The forgetting machine can erase minds. The bodies keep the score. That's how the forgetting machine works. And servants were expected to be invisible. You're in the room when the master's talking, but you're not there. You hear everything, see everything, know everything, but you don't count as a witness. Because if you're invisible, what you see doesn't matter. And Blink Twice makes that literal. Women on the island don't just become invisible, they disappear, completely erased from memory, and nobody asks where they went because nobody remembers they were there. You can't fight what you can't prove, you can't protest what you can't name, you can't grieve someone nobody remembers. Invisibility in luxury spaces isn't just a lack of attention, it's an active tool of control.
The sort of fake illusion that money is safety. I think not a lot of people have sort of spoken about that. Money gives this false sense of safety.
Frida was invisible when she was serving drinks. She was invisible when she was being assaulted. She was invisible when she was screaming for help. And then she figured out how to weaponize it back. Because if you're invisible, no one sees you coming. And both Grace and Frida are the other in these wealthy spaces. Grace has no money. She's marrying into the Ledemars fortune. She's the outsider.
Alex didn't tell us you were brought up in foster homes. Champagne?
Oh, thank you. Please. My foster parents were great people. And, you know, they did what they could, but it was always temporary. I always sort of dreamed of having a family. I mean, I'm sure Alex would have loved living in sin forever.
I don't doubt it.
But he really understood how important it was for finally have a real permanent family.
The person who doesn't belong. And the family makes that clear. She's not one of them. She's the sacrifice. A horror scholar calls this the other, the person the story treats like they don't belong. The other is whoever society doesn't know what to do with, the person on the margin, the people we don't think about. The monster in horror is usually the other, but so is the victim. Frida has arguably even less. As a service worker, she's serving drinks while billionaires network. She's invisible by design. She's not supposed to be a character in the story, she's scenery. And this is where the film split on who can use invisibility as a weapon. Toni Morrison says, blackness in American stories often functions like a shadow, shaping everything, but never allowed to be the subject. It's background, the thing you don't look at directly. But here's what both films do that's interesting. The staff, the servers, the workers, they're even more other than the protagonists. They're not even people in these worlds, they're furniture.
So, wait, does the help count? No! Why does everyone keep asking?
But here's where Ready or Not gets darker. The servants in that mansion aren't just silent, they're actively complicit.
Mr. Ladomas, I just saw her run.
There's a moment where Grace finds a maid hiding in a corner and whispers,
Yeah, because they're looking for me, they're not looking for you, so come on.
She's over here!
The forgetting machine doesn't just need people who remember and stay quiet, it needs people who remember and choose to help it run. And Ready or Not, there are servants in that mansion.
Mr. Ladomas, he just likes the way I dance.
Okay, let's hope, please.
They know the ritual, they've watched people die, and they say nothing. Not because they're complicit, because they're invisible. Their knowing doesn't count. And as many other reviewers have critiqued, they're usually the first people to go in Ready or Not. In Blink Twice, the local staff on the island has the anecdote to the memory drug. They too know what's happening. They've seen women disappear before. They recognize Frida as the red rabbit, giving her signs. She was fighting back. Every interaction with Frida, she's trying to give her the snake venom, offering her a shot, trying to wake her up. Frida doesn't understand until it's too late, but the maid's been resisting the whole time. Invisibility isn't just oppression here, it's also cover for rebellion. They have all the information, but nobody asks them because they don't count as people who know things. They're just there. And Blink Twice does something really specific with this. The servers and the served on the island aren't divided by race. They're divided by class. It's locals versus tourists, the people who belong to the island versus the people who vacation here. But it's one kind of horror, because it means you can be erased without ever being explicitly excluded. You can be the other without anyone ever saying it out loud. You're just not thought about, not connected, not counted, not remembered. The forgetting machine doesn't just erase victims, it erases witnesses. But here's what that means in practice. The people who run the forgetting machine need the invisible people. They need the staff, they need the servants, they need the locals who clean the rooms and serve the drinks and dispose of the evidence. Because those people see everything. And ready or not, the servants know when Grace is hiding. They see her. They could even warn her and help her, but often they don't. Not because they're cruel, because they're trapped in the same system. The Panopticon watches them also. In Blink Twice, the staff has the anecdote the whole time. They could have given it to Frida on day one, could have told her what was happening, could have helped her escape, but they're being watched as well. They're in the system as well, and the system works because everyone knows their place. The master watches the guests don't see the master. The staff sees everything, the staff says nothing. That's how the Great House works. That's how the Plantation works. That's how Bluebeard's castle works. The forgetting machine requires people who remember. They just have to be people nobody listens to. And that's the genius of what Frida does at the end of Blink Twice. She was the staff. She was invisible. She was the other. She saw everything and nobody thought she mattered. And then she used that. She became the person everyone forgot to watch. She didn't just escape the Panopticon. She walked into the watchtower and sat down in the chair. And we need to talk about what that inheritance actually looks like. Blink Twice is selling us a very specific idea, that black wealth equals freedom. That becoming rich, becoming powerful, that's the revenge, that's the protection. But if the wealth is built on a forgetting machine, if the Great House is still standing, if the Panopticon is still watching, then Frida's just sitting in the chair now. She's operating the same system that erased her.
Basically, Frida was more manipulative than comes across now.
If the system that hurt you is still running, and you're just the one in charge now, did you escape or did you switch seats? Now let's talk about what these different endings actually mean. Grace's ending in Ready or Not is cathartic. It's satisfying. It's what we want to happen in a horror movie. She refuses to play the game. She won't follow their rules. She won't be the sacrifice they need her to be.
I'm not playing.
But here's what Grace figures out that someone else in that mansion didn't. Charity, Daniel's wife, knew about the ritual before she married in and was told if she drew the wrong card, the family would hunt her down and kill her.
But do you remember how you reacted when I told you about this? You didn't blink. I mean, you couldn't wait to sign your soul.
You know where I came from and what my life was like before. I'd rather be dead than lose all of this.
She'd rather die than go back to being poor. She married him anyway, and by the end of the film, she's hunting Grace too.
I got...
Charity made Frida's choice earlier. Inheritance over escape, wealth over freedom. And because of that refusal, the curse backfires. The family made a deal with the devil generations ago. Sacrifice someone new, keep the wealth. But Grace survives until dawn, and when the ritual fails, the devil collects. One by one, they explode, literally bursting into flames and gore, the entire family, because Grace wouldn't die. And Blink Twice makes this literal. Watch this.
I'm looking at her when she looked up, and he said, man, last year, you did it, but this year, I didn't even think you could pull it off.
I thought last year was intense, but you really outdone yourself.
Man, they didn't even know they'd been there for a couple years. They think they still been there for a couple of weeks and months.
It's because they so drugged up.
They so drugged up.
Last year, they've been erasing these women for years, and nobody remembers, nobody asks. That's a certain type of forgetting machine running. And here's what that looks like when Grace figures it out. The house has been watching her the entire time. She just didn't know it. She walks out of that mansion at sunrise, covered in their blood, and the house is over. And the empire is over. The forgetting machine stopped. At least for now. That's the traditional horror ending. The final girl destroys the system and walks away. And it works because Grace was never part of that world. She didn't grow up with the wealth. She doesn't want the mansion or the money or the legacy. She just wants to live. So she burns it down, or rather she lets the devil burn it down. There's something pure about that, something clean. The evil is destroyed, the curse is broken, grace is free. But that ending only works if you can afford to walk away. Do you think Frida's ending is cathartic? She survives the island, she remembers what Slater King did to her and to the other women. She has the evidence, she has the anecdote. She could go to the police, she could expose him, she could burn it all down like Grace did. Instead, she goes back.
So here's what Frida does. She opens the forbidden room. She sees what the house was built to hide. And then, here's the twist. She doesn't run. She doesn't burn it down. She walks back in and sits in Bluebeard's chair.
She takes the memory erasing drug, the same drug that was used to assault and erase her, and she uses it on Slater King. She wipes him blank. His memories, his personality, his power, gone. He becomes a shell. And then she marries that shell and inherits everything. His fortune, his empire, his island, his control. She doesn't destroy the forgetting machine, she takes control of it. And the film ends with Frida in charge. She's the one with power now. She's the one who decides what's remembered and what's forgotten. She went from being invisible to being in charge, from victim to owner, from the person being erased to the person holding the erasure. That's not escape, that's inheritance. That's not just the final girl, that's the final boss. So here's a question both films are asking. Which ending is better?
Now look, this is just my interpretation, but I don't think the film is saying Frida's ending is good. I think it's showing us what happens when the only path to power is through the system that tried to destroy you. That's not a celebration, that's a horror movie ending disguised as a girl boss fantasy.
Here's what's uncomfortable. Horror has trained us to expect catharsis as a clean escape. And historically, it's been easiest for the genre to imagine that ending for white heroines. Blink Twice refuses that comfort. Maybe Frida knows that walking away empty-handed isn't freedom, it's just survival. Maybe she knows that the system doesn't stop just because you escaped it, so she takes it over instead. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. If you become the thing that almost killed you, did you really survive?
The oppressed becoming...
The oppressor?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Frida using the same drug that erased her, she's living in the same house where she was assaulted. She's running the same system that treated her as invisible. She's not destroying the forgetting machine, she's operating it. And the film leaves us with that. It doesn't tell us if Frida's ending is empowerment or corruption. It doesn't tell us if she's free or if she's trapped. It just shows us what she chose. In Get Out, Jordan Peele talked about how the original ending had Chris going to prison for killing the family that tried to steal his body. And Peele said that felt too real, too bleak, too much like what actually happens to Black people in America. So he changed it. Chris escapes, his friend saves him, he gets out. That's a fantasy ending for a Black character in a horror movie. Because the real ending, the one where the system wins even when you survive, that one's too real to be satisfying. Maybe Frida's ending is the other fantasy. Not the fantasy of escape, but the fantasy of control. The fantasy that says, I can't destroy this system, so I'm gonna run it. I can't make it disappear, so I'm gonna make sure it works for me instead of against me. But it's still a fantasy, because the system doesn't change. The Great House is still standing. The Panopticon is still watching. The forgetting machine is still running. Frida's just the one in the chair now, and I don't know if that's winning. So here's what these films are really asking. When the system breaks you and you finally hold the power, what do you do? Do you burn down the house, or do you move into the master bedroom? Grace chose fire, Frida chose the keys. And the truth is, both choices make sense. Both choices are valid. Both choices come with a cost. Grace walks away free but empty-handed, the evil destroyed, and so is everything else. She has her life. And that may be enough. Frida walks away with everything, the empire, the wealth, the control, but she's living in the same house where she was traumatized. She's using the same tools that were used against her. She's running the same machine. And here's a twist I didn't expect. The trailer for Ready or Not shows Grace running again. The cycle didn't end. This time, multiple families are hunting her, and they've taken her sister. Grace doesn't just have to survive now, they both do. Which means Grace wasn't the final boss, she was just the next player. The house didn't burn down, the game just got bigger. The New York Times review of Blink Twice said something that stuck with me. It said the film portrays Black wealth as freedom, a cocoon that protects from prosecution and is the best revenge. But is that really freedom? Or is it just a different kind of prison, one where you're the warden instead of the inmate? I keep thinking about the Bluebeard Folktale. In the original story, the woman escapes or dies, and those are the only two endings. But these films give us a third option, inheritance. What happens when the woman doesn't escape the castle? She inherits it. What happens when she doesn't destroy the forgetting machine? She learns to operate it. What happens when the other becomes the master? And honestly, I don't know which one is more terrifying, because both endings leave the architecture standing. Ready or Not is a scream, Blink Twice is a whisper. One woman escapes with her life, the other escapes with the whole empire. And both films are warnings. Old warnings dressed up as new stories. Warnings about entering houses of power. Warnings about trusting wealthy men. Warnings about what happens when you realize too late that you're in Bluebeard's castle. But there are also warnings about what happens after you survive. Because survival isn't the end of the story, it's just the beginning of the next question. What do you do with what you've survived? Do you walk away or do you stay and take control? Do you refuse the inheritance or do you claim it? These are the questions we keep asking in Plantation horror, because Plantation horror is always about inheritance. What we inherit from history, what we inherit from systems of power, what we inherit from people who built the great houses and the people who were forced to live in them. And sometimes the inheritance is trauma, sometimes it's memory, sometimes it's wealth built on forgotten stories, and sometimes the inheritance is the forgetting machine itself. The question is, what do you do with it?
Grace refused the inheritance. Frida claimed it. And both choices haunt me.
This has been Legacy of Folktales. We find the old stories hiding in new ones, and sometimes those old stories are the ones we're still living.
If you liked our video on Blink Twice and Ready or Not, check out this video on Plantation horror, which started all of this. Thanks for watching.